Are you taking a risk by talking to me?
Yes, it is very risky, honestly. I mean, they do have my picture because I did participate in the protest for woman life freedom. At that time, I was in Iran, and it was a very brutal thing, honestly. When you go in there, it's one thing to sit from watch it from the screen and thinking that okay, people are getting brave and that's a very good thing. It's a whole another thing actually being there, because I was thinking okay, tonight I'm going to die, because they start shooting. It's not a just putting the tear gas. They start shooting.
As the Iranian uprising enters its 11th day and protests spread to over 92 cities, Iranians are realising they have a unique chance to oust the Islamist regime of Ayatollah Khamenei. Kiana, an Iranian who has now moved to Britain, has contacts on the ground with the latest. I'm not including her last name to protect the safety of her relatives. She joins me now. Before we properly start, if you could just give me a bit of an overview of where the protests stand today.
Well, we are in the 11th day of the protest, and it has been, the numbers are rising as we are talking. People have been on a strike, from the merchants to the young people, people who have been in the universities. They are in the ground, they are in the streets shouting death to Khamenei from at least 28 provinces of 31 provinces in Iran. And it's a historic moment. The end of this regime is very near. Even the newspapers of the Reform Party, they have been covering almost all of the protests right now. And even Zahra Rahnavard, who was the wife of Mir Hossein Mousavi in the Green Movement, they have also supported the protest and have admitted that this regime should go to a democracy, and it is the time for transition.
So, for people on the ground there who are actually taking part in the protests, they risk a heavy price for doing so, don't they?
It's a very, very risky thing. And even as we are talking, I mean, human rights activist agency has reported that at least 37 people have been killed, and there are many more, almost 1,000 detainees. Even yesterday, we saw the security forces attacking Imam Khomeini Hospital in Ilam and kidnapping and abducting the protesters who were in the shelter there and were getting treated by the doctors, and they were getting blood donations, and they just cut that, and they are not letting their parents or family near them, and they are stopping anyone who wants to film along those areas. And also yesterday, I think it was Etnesina Hospital, who were the protesters were running towards the hospital, and they fired tear gas in the hospital. I mean, they have been getting very much brutal than before, obviously, and they have deployed almost 800 people from Iraq, their military militias, for the oppression. But I have been hearing the plan for Khamenei to exit the country. And also, Reza Pahlavi has been giving ultimatum to the people to go onto the streets, and he has been very courageous and yeah, supporting people into the streets, asking everyone to support the people.
Yeah, and just for our viewers, Reza Pahlavi is the crown prince of Iran, who many are calling for a return. Um, for you yourself as an Iranian, is that the sort of thing that you were expecting? Is a return of Reza Pahlavi if the regime were to fall, or and is that something that is supported by most of the people in Iran, or is there actually a lot of disagreement in Iran about what could come next?
That's the thing. The main thing that we need to understand is that people, any people from any social economy classes, are tired of this regime. They have known how they operate. They have known their oppression. They have known that they are exploiting the Iranian resources to give it to other terrorist organizations in the area. And now people have thought that there is no better option than Reza Pahlavi. And meanwhile, people are shouting "Long live the king" into the streets. I would also suggest that this is a very clear point of view of them having of the time of Iran in the Shah's times, which were we had a very prosperous country, the economy was brilliant, and we had as an identity, as a national identity, it was a um, very good times for Iran, and people are shouting that they want that. But for the record, I do not believe that the monarchy itself is in the interest of a majority of the people in Iran. But it's the Reza Pahlavi as someone who is promising that he would, if he comes into the power after the Islamic Republic falls, he would make an election, a referendum of people voting that if they want a monarchy, if they want secular republic, anything, and that is the promise that people are holding on to.
And for your family and friends that are still in Iran, are some of them taking part in the protests? What does their daily life look like at the moment? What are their fears? What are they thinking might come in the future?
Yeah, I mean, it was the first thing that I remember my friend telling me a few days ago that I contacted him was that the protests were first started in the smaller cities as the inflation was hitting the people in the village and lower economic classes and smaller cities first, and they started first. But it's now it has spread into the bigger cities too, and my friends have been going into the streets and they can see that the oppression, the brutality of the security forces has been increasing dramatically as they are in the fear of losing power and they can sense that it is near. But the beautiful thing is that even the people from Bazaar, the merchants, are joining everyone. As I said, every people, like every person who is in any different kind of part of the society is now onto the streets and shouting abolishing of the Islamic Republic.
And every Iranian that I speak to says, well, the Balzar are getting involved. Why is it so important that they're involved?
Why is it?
Why is it so important that they're coming out onto the streets?
The thing is that merchants and the bazaar people used to be a very conservative people who were, they are tradespeople. And in the last protest during the Women Life Freedom, we could see that they're not actively engaged in the protests because their view is that if they can sell and they can buy, it's gonna be okay. But they have seen that this regime is not something that you can count on in any way. Every day the people are getting poorer each day. I mean, in the 2 weeks the prices of the cooking oil, the eggs have tripled. If I'm being generous, it has tripled. um, and they are very tired of hearing the same rhetoric that it is the West and the people of the enemy who are protesting in the streets. They have realized that it is not that. They do not want anything to do with this regime.
So, although these protests were sparked by concerns around the cost of living, the regime is now responding, offering families £5 a month in order to try and quell their anger. But you don't think that that's going to work?
I think the people have shown this because it was not yesterday, but 2 nights ago, that Fateme Mohajerani came onto the state TV to tell about the financial program that they're going to give the almost $7 to each person per month. But what was amazing was that the next day even more people came into the protest, even more people went onto the strike, and we could see in the city of Abdanan that people last night were throwing rice in the air, saying that we do not want now your pity. You cannot now fool us with these little promises. We have seen what you are. We have seen what you are capable of, and we people of Iran are very determined on the regime gone. That's all they want now.
And are they open to any help to get that result? I mean, obviously Donald Trump has made his threats. He's having his war of words with the regime. I did see reports that some people were sticking plaques saying Donald Trump Street on certain street names. How do Iranians on the ground, the people that you know, view Donald Trump and the US?
Well, the good thing about Donald Trump is that he does not kid around talking about negotiations with these people. If he says something, he means it, and that's what the people of Iran wanted to see. In contradictory to Barack Obama, who stays silent, thinking that Islamic regime is a regime that could come into the negotiations and have a peaceful talk. They do not know diplomacy. They do not have anything to do with that. They are radicals, and for someone like that, people of Iran are very hopeful that Donald Trump, even just the tweet, just the words that we are supporting you. I know myself, it gives so much hope to the Iranian people to know that they are not alone, because we are seeing that a lot of the people who actually claim that they care about human rights, they are staying silent because it's not in their favor to talk about a regime who is very anti-Western and anti-Israeli to talk about that.
And with the restrictions on freedom of speech and the brutal way in which the regime has responded to these protests, there's been 34 people killed, four of whom have been children.
Yeah.
Why, despite these very real threats, do you think people are like, no, we're going out?
I mean, this has been happening since, I think, the Green Movement was one of the biggest sparks in the history of the Islamic Republic. They killed a lot of people back then, and at that time, there were still a lot of reformers, a lot of people, Iranian people, who thought that okay, the Islamic Republic is fine, but there are some hardliners there that we need to change. We need to find the rhetoric of going into the reform and being a bit softer. But as the years pass, as they have seen how the Islamic Republic again exploits them emotionally, physically, financially. I mean, last summer, there was no electricity in Iran. They would announce that for 5 hours they would cut off the electricity. When it comes the winter, there's no gas, and now there are actually people who have no bread, and they cannot afford to get meat. Meat is a luxury now in Iran. If you can afford meat, that's a very privilege. So while they have seen this ongoing process of having no hope in the regime, and the regime has never been talking very positively or trying even a little to come to the side of people. And even we could see, I think it was Friday, that Khamenei came to talk, and they were like, we need to repress them. As the years have passed since the Green Movement, we could see that how harsh they are getting, even in the speech. I mean, 11th of January is the anniversary of them shutting down a Ukrainian airplane of 752 and killing 176 civilians. And I remember that after that they shot an airplane, a civilian airplane, they came and they were like, yeah, it was a human mistake. So these people are now in the power, and in the power in terms of that, in their speech they do not fear anything. They do not even lie that okay, we're going to try, we're going to do make things better. They have the strength. It was a 1 month ago that Madanizadeh, who is the Ministry of Economics, they ask him that okay, dollar is getting 125,000 tomans, what's your thought? And he just smiles and he says, now or now, very like happily, because they thrive in their oppression. They thrive in the people getting poor. It makes them feel stronger, it makes them feel more powerful. While again, I think it was $700 million a year for Hezbollah, the terrorist group, and the last time that I saw the numbers, it was $1 billion a year for Hezbollah, while the people itself, they don't have anything now.
And with the
So
way in which they are reacting, are you taking a risk by talking to me?
yes, it is very risky, honestly. I mean, they do have my picture because I did participate in the protest for woman life freedom. At that time, I was in Iran. And it was a very brutal thing, honestly. When you go in there, it's one thing to sit from watch it from the screen and thinking that okay, people are getting brave and that's a very good thing. It's a whole another thing actually being there, because I was thinking, okay, tonight I'm going to die, because they start shooting. It's not a just putting the tear gas. They start shooting without any consequences. And in their head they are like, we have the right to, you are protesting against us, how dare you. And I remember some of the security forces passing me by on their motorcycle, and they were shouting, okay, go ahead, go, let's see what you're doing, what can you do. And there were other people like with Arabic accents that they had brought from I'm sure Hashad al-Sha'bi or Houthis. They bring their militias to oppress the people, and for them it's nothing. It's really nothing.
Wow, I mean that's so brave. And have you got any friends at the moment who are out on the streets, or are they more just observing?
Yeah, my friends are in the streets, and I'm really proud of them. And honestly, I think that their rhetoric is that they have nothing to lose now. As a young person in Iran, you have no future. You don't even have the will to dream now. What are you going to dream about? If you want to get married, the prices are horrendous. If you want to, I mean, we don't have access to any of the educational platforms. If you want to use YouTube, you have to use the VPN. So it's basically isolated because of Islamic Republic's behavior, and people are now realizing that this is it. Young people have nothing to lose, and even it was really funny in terms of these protests. I've seen a lot of videos of old people. Literally, like women who are in their probably 80s, just standing there and shouting "Death to the Khamenei." These are, we did not see these in the last protest, but this unity of people from every age, every economic situation is brilliant.
Um, and just finally, I spoke to Mani Basharsad on Sunday, and he had revealed that and it's something that we Brits didn't really know, that the BBC is very unpopular in Iran, and apparently Iranians call the BBC Ayatollah BBC. Do you agree with that? And could you tell me a little bit more about why it's viewed that way?
Yes, the thing is that I do myself call it Ayatollah BBC. I think we have seen in the protests in the past that BBC's view was trying to show these as not protests and not the brutality of the regime, but just people that are unsatisfied and try to downgrade the oppression. And people, they have seen that, they have seen how they are going into the streets, they are there seeing the reality, and then they compare it to what BBC is showing. BBC is it's more in favor of the reformers. I think Manny talked about this in his interview, and they want to actually reform the Islamic Republic, saying that yes, it is it might have some flaws, but we can still change it a bit and modify it a bit and work through with that. That's not the reality. That is
And in these
absolutely.
current protests, it seems as though the media in general has kind of been silent about it, or not silent about it, but they've given it minimal coverage. And I can't understand that, because from what I see, when I put out a story about Iran, the engagement is insane. So many people want to know what's happening there. And have Iranians been disappointed about the media coverage?
We have been disappointed for too many years. I think one of the reasons is that some people stay silent, some people who are pro-Palestine and thinking about the conflict that is happening there, and they see Iran from outside, and they think that, oh, this is a country that is resisting the Israeli occupation. That's very brave of that. I mean, I have talked to people literally admiring Khamenei, and I could not believe, because you are talking about oppression and the brutality of Netanyahu, and you think Khamenei is different. So they have this idea that okay, because Iran has a rhetoric of standing up to Israel, then it's a very good country, and that people in the West are tricking Iranian people into just going into the streets because they want Iranian people to their side. But again, it's not as simple as that, because we have religious people who think that, okay, Islamic Republic happened for a reason, and they think that it was a good reason. But even they themselves have realized that, oh my God, this was not what I wanted for my country, for our people, to get poorer every day without any water, while having the largest, one of the largest oil revenues we could have had, if it wasn't for the behavior of Islamic Republic. And yeah, I think that that's one of the main reasons that people do not want to dig more into the situation in Iran, or want to deny that that's happening.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Kiana.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.